Okay. So, uh, today we will be talking about the last block of Introduction to Journalism and Mass Communication, which was a block which was meant to give you a kind of a preview or kind of a window glimpse into what are the various aspects of mass communication, what are the various disciplines of mass communication, and for those who are new to mass media, you would also find various avenues where if you think you're interested, you can build your careers. So in this last block on communications, we're going to discuss integrated marketing communications. And again, like all the other blocks, though of course a few of them had more units than four, this has four units, one of which is advertising, the other is public relations and corporate communications, and the third one is on event management, while the fourth one is more or less a summary of the various tools that we make use of in marketing, and we call it integrated marketing communications. I also understand that a number of you could be working in the industry, and maybe you would be also able to give some insight into the industry that you are working in, say for example advertising or communications, public relations and corporate communications, or even event management, so on. So to begin with, when we talk of, I'll give you a brief of what these units are going to talk about. The unit on advertising is going to stick to why advertising is needed and what are the various objectives of advertising, what are the advantages of it, and also the various media that we make use of, along with the appeals that we make use of. So appeal, when I talk about appeal, it will be, say for example, a logical appeal or a fear appeal or emotional appeal. So various kinds of advertising appeals, advertising techniques will be talked about, and models of advertising will also be looked at. When I say model, it could be SOSTAC model, it could be, there are various kinds of models, DAGMA and all those. So this unit will basically cover advertising and advertising management. Though advertising as a discipline is so huge, it can even one whole course is less to describe advertising, because right from how do you write a copy to what kind of visuals to be used to creating a campaign, there is so much that goes into ad making. And especially when we talk about various media, so when we're talking about making a radio jingle or an ad for the print newspaper or a magazine, and then a TV ad, so on and so forth. So we cannot get into that detail right now, but I think of course in the second year you will be having a course on advertising which will deal with all these things alongside branding. So here we will only try to give you a basic glimpse and cover the basic aspects of advertising. Then the second unit we will have would be talking about public relations and corporate communications, which would probably throw some light on the scope and importance of and the nature of public relations, and what are the various tools that PR makes use of alongside corporate communications, and the nature of jobs and responsibilities. This is quite basic. What is a PR personnel required to do, and maybe why government requires PR, or why anybody at all would require PR, be it an individual, be it an organization, or anyone for that matter, even a political leader. Anybody and everybody requires some PR, and PR in fact is an inherent part of our lives, because on and off we try to ensure that we the kind of image we like to maintain for ourselves, be it on Facebook or when we talk to the neighbor, it that is what we have in mind. So essentially it is an inherent part of our communications on a daily basis, and that's what we call public relations. So that unit will be talking on about it. And the third unit will be talking about event management. Now we know that events have become important these days, be they online events which have started coming up after the corona pandemic, or be they any other kind of event. So basically, this unit will talk about how technology has affected event management per se, and what exactly do we call an event and its types and all those things. And then the role of an event manager will also be focused on. So if you are, maybe a wedding planner, what kind of role are you supposed to play as a part of the management of this event? So While speaking of that, we will also focus on the strategic planning and budgeting of events and analyzing the environment for an event. So, say for example, if a certain public is hostile to a political leader, what should you hold? Should you hold a rally of the public? Is it a good idea to hold a rally, or is it a better idea to hold a TV interview? So those are the kind of things that go into analyzing the in event environment. And of course, we'll also talk about sustainability, because sustainability has become a part of everything, like business, education, everywhere we talk sustainability, environment. So what is business environment sustainability or event management sustainability is what we're going to focus on. And then of course, the last unit will be talking about integrated marketing communications. And this is an interesting unit in sense that it takes along all the other three units that we will be discussing about in this block, and it'll help you learn the basic concepts of marketing communications, its benefits, why should media be integrated, and how do all of them become a part of IMC, integrated marketing communications. What all of them? Advertising, PR, or corporate communications, event management, and all the various other branches or the disciplines of mass communication. How do they become a tool for integrated marketing communications? And then this unit would also talk about, what kind of goals does an organization set up for itself when it is using IMC? So, what kind of a goal is required when you're using advertising as compared to what sort of a goal requires the use of IMC? Those are the aspects we're going to look into. Having said that, the first unit that we will be taking up today is advertising. And if you browse through the unit, you will find things like the very basics, like, say, for example, what is the definition of advertising and how did advertising evolve? So, when we look at the definition of advertising, we know that any paid form of communication where a communication is being sponsored by someone, an individual or an organization, that kind of communication is what we call advertising communication. So it has the basic, non-personal form of communication, which is being targeted at a lot of people together. So you will see that an ad is not specifically meant for you, despite that it can be meant for a selected target audience, but not exactly for you in particular. So it is not for an individual, it is for an identified target individual. It is completely non-personal, and it is a paid form of communication. So in spite of all other forms of promotion that we have, uh, advertising still is quite important, because production becomes incomplete until you tell the world about what you've produced and why it can be of some use to them, what is the benefit they might derive, what is its USP, the unique selling proposition that it has, so on and so forth. So, if we look at the evolution of advertising, when you browse through the unit, you will see that the unit largely talks about evolution of advertising in Indian context. So, here it would be pertinent that you cover the evolution of your own country, evolution of advertising in your own country, which will be very much available on Google. So, here when we talk about advertising, like it began from way back 1780, when James Augustus Hickey started a newspaper called the Bengal Gazette. And from that Bengal Gazette emanated news, opinions, and that was the start of advertising. And from that, it came to 1883. So there are certain pointers that you would find in a chronological order, where historically it speaks about what are the various years, in which, say, for example, TV broadcasting started using advertisement, or an advertisers club was formed on a national level. There is an advertising agencies association of India, and then Doordarshan was separate. Doordarshan is the official TV channel of the country. So once it was separated from the official radio channel of the country, which is AIR, All India Radio. And how did first TV commercial develop? So there is a chronological series of events that has been mentioned here. It is only pertinent that you understand and know these in context of your own country. Then the other important aspect that this unit focuses on is figuring out the difference between advertising and publicity and propaganda. So, like advertising, I said, is about giving information about a company or an individual or an idea to the significant other group, which is the significant other group, the target audiences, the people from for which this communication is meant. As compared to this, publicity is when you're using personal or non-personal means to reach people with the communication about this product or service. As compared to this, propaganda could be majorly used as a political warfare. It could be used more in terms of creating a certain image which may or may not be true in the eyes of the public. So that is one of the differences. Another one which is mentioned here is that it is always a commercial transaction and encourages sales of products and services. The advertising always is done to sell something. As compared to this, publicity may not be always commercial in nature. It may indirectly be linked to the business volume or the sales volume that is getting generated over a period of time, but it may not directly be connected to selling only. The third thing is propaganda, which may not be a commercial transaction, but it encourages the change of perception about a certain thing. So when you want people to start thinking of something in a negative fashion or in a positive fashion, you try and go ahead with propaganda. The fault of propaganda is everything that is communicated through propaganda is not always true. It can or cannot be true, and up to what level remains to be decided by the one who's floating it. Then, thirdly, for advertising, the source is always known. So, say for example, you're looking at some Japanese or Korean brand of television. So you know who is playing this ad about this Korean. Obviously, it is that agency or that company which is playing the ad. As compared to this, when we talk about publicity, the source may not be known at all times. Sometimes, most of the times, it is known, but there are times when you do not know who has publicized a certain thing. And for propaganda too, the source is always known. Why? Because you cannot do two things in continuum. You cannot keep changing the perception of people based on whatever you're communicating, and also not telling them your identity. Why? Because in order that perception be changed, it is necessary that people trust you. And in order for trust to develop, it is important that your identity be known. Hence, for publicity, for propaganda, one cannot go ahead with the source of communication not being known. Okay. Having said that, again, like I said, that advertising is always a paid form, but publicity may or may not be paid. There are wise, fair chances that, say, for example, if a certain class of people or a certain section of the population prefers to see a person X as their chief minister, they wouldn't mind transit advertising. So if I have a card, I don't mind putting up a poster at the back of it saying vote for X. Okay. So also for auto rickshaws and stuff like that. And in fact, in India, transit advertising is very much used. So it may not always be paid for. And when we talk about propaganda, the same holds good for propaganda as well. It is quite possible that it may not always be paid for. So it depends more on how passionately people feel about a subject in question, about a candidate who's going to stand in elections, or about a product or service, and why it should be used by the public or not be used by the public. So the more important the passion, which is what is going to decide if you're going to do it without any payment. Then all advertising is always publicity, but all publicity may not be advertising. That's one thing. Secondly, all advertising may not be propaganda. So advertising is the larger umbrella, and publicity is even larger than that. So when we are talking of a focused communication, reaching focused audiences, and you find a person who's going to pay for giving out such kind of communication, that is what advertising is. So while we've talked about that, we also need to focus upon the objectives of advertising. When I talk about the objectives of advertising, like when we say what are the objectives of mass communication, We say that it is to educate, inform, and entertain and persuade. Those are the four kinds of objectives we keep for mass communication. uh, in relation to this, when we look at the general objectives of advertising, they could be to inform, to persuade, as well as to remind. What is the idea of reminding? The idea of reminding is, once we've made certain kind of image which has been set in the minds of the audiences, we would like to reinforce it to ensure brand loyalty, to ensure that the same purchase decision is made again whenever the person goes out to make this decision. So hence reminding in advertising is quite important, quite necessary. As compared to this, when we speak about specific objectives of advertising, we look at inducing a trial. You want to debate, say for example, Cadbury. There was a time when people found, it was discovered that Cadbury had an insect in it. It was a chocolate that had insects in it. So obviously the sale went down drastically. So, when Cadbury decides to induce a trial in public, it comes up with opposing views or the views in support of its organization and its product, to state that this was a once in a lifetime mistake, and it is not common for us to make those mistakes, and that we've been in the market for the past 100 years, 80 years, 50 years, whatever. So they try to induce a trial amongst people. Like when we talk about media trials, we talk about media putting a subject to trial without without the law and order, without looking at the court's decision, code of laws decision. So even before the court has made its decision, the media puts people or a certain situation to trial and decides for the people, which is not a healthy concept, which is in fact not just debatable, it is also unethical. So, one of the specific objectives, similarly, is to induce a trial in support of or against a certain policy that the government has taken, that the organization is taking, whichever way. The second thing is to intensify the usage of the product. So, if you think there's a certain health drink which you purchase only once in a month or once in 2 months, they are going to ensure that you start taking it every month or every fortnight. So they want to intensify the usage of the product so that it becomes a part of life of the people. Third is to sustain preference. What kind of preference would people have, in case they are looking at various products in the same category? So say, for example, a small segment car. There can be many small segment cars, out of which is the preference that you have, and a sustained preference. So when you go back again to buy a car, say after 7, 8, 10 years, you buy the same brand. So that is sustained preference, what you can also call brand loyalty. And then the confirmation of image. If I have positioned my company as a concern which is going to which is supposedly more responsible in terms of what it does and how it produces, which gives back to the society, I would like that image to stay in the minds of the audiences, because it develops a certain kind of respect amongst the public. Then the next thing would be to change habits. Like, I'll give you an example. We have a soap here, which is a not so expensive soap, and is used largely. This is something you will find in villages as well as towns and cities everywhere. So during the COVID times, they started promoting the hand hygiene. Now there was a not exactly controversial, but I would say there was another brand, say Dettol, and this brand was Lifebuoy. So Dettol went ahead and said that if you want to protect yourself, if you want to protect any of yourself and your family from any sort of damages, it is very important that you start practicing hand hygiene during corona and use only Dettol, because Dettol is used even by the doctors. As compared to this, when Lifebuoy came with its ad, it said, whichever soap you use, but please make use of soap, because that is the only thing which is going to protect you. So when we look at the communication of different brands and what they're going to suggest, every brand is going to have a different kind of image, or it is going to look at changing of certain habits amongst people. Okay, and if you do it in a socially responsible manner, you reap twice the benefit. That's one thing. And then, of course, building a line of acceptance. Um, After the insect appeared in the Cadbury chocolate, it was highly unlikely that, because chocolates are a competitive market, so it was highly unlikely that Cadbury could come back and sustain its position in the Indian market. But over a period of 7, 8, 10 years, they slogged at it, and then they were able to again build the trust and find the acceptance amongst the Indian customers, Indian clientele. So that is building a line of acceptance. So those are the basic objectives of advertising. There are also certain limitations of these objectives which have been listed, and you can go through them. As in, what are the limitations of advertising for the consumer? What are they for the manufacturer? If you run through it, you will know all of them. Like, it creates a primary demand for the brand, and hence, the it helps in increasing the result. So this is one of the pros of increasing the result of what, in terms of business volume or sales volume. So the outcome is better. That is what is the pro of advertising. But the con could be that advertisements are only informing about the product availability. They are not giving the details of the features or details of the nutritional component or anything that we would like to look at while deciding for a certain brand of a good or service. So there are various kinds of pros and cons of advertising from the manufacturer and for the manufacturer's end or for the consumers, and they're listed down in that in your unit. Please go through it. Um, then we will be looking at the media for advertising. So, like you all know, I don't think I need to elaborate too much on this. We know we have print advertising, we have TV advertisements, and how much should they be? So, TV ads are essentially not more than 30 to 45 seconds. As compared to this, when we look at radio, it is usually just 15 to 20 seconds. That's a radio spot which you take during the prime hours of radio. And similarly for print advertisement, if you're talking about newspapers, it could be classified ad or visual ad. Classified ad is the ad which only contains text, right? It may contain a box item also, but only text, no visuals per se. As compared to this, there are certain other ads which are accompanied by visuals and punchline, color, picture, whatever. So those are one kinds of ads. And similarly for magazine ads, again it is different. So magazine ads are mostly visual ads. That is one thing. And then it also goes on to tell you about online advertising and the new media advertising. We all see the pop-ups that come on Facebook, or the pop-ups that come whenever you browsing any other social media site, or even when you're on YouTube. Certain suggestions keep coming depending on the data that they've gathered from your past uh, you know past hunts, past searches. This is something that you find everywhere these days, because AI is inbuilt and it keeps tracking your choices. So by the end, by in a few days' time, the AI is able to know what are your choices, what is the income bracket in which you operate, or what is all those things are very easily available for people to see. So then we also have outdoor advertisements, the big banner ads that you see on highways, or and what is the speciality of this ad, that it'll be more visual in nature. It will have very few words because it should be able to attract the audiences from a distance. And if I am driving at a speed of say 60, 80, or 100, it is less likely that I'll be able to read a lot of words. So in very few words, you should be able to simply, on my face, you have to put the message about the brand that you are promoting. So that is outdoor advertising. Also, we have transit advertising, about which I spoke. And then there are various other media, like, direct emailers and telemarketing and film advertising. Every time you get a phone call stating that such and such bank is offering you a loan, so telephone marketing. So various other film advertising. So in film advertising is when a certain brand is shown in a movie. All right. So the protagonist and the heroine go to an eating joint, and then you see KFC, or you see McDonald's, or you see any other eating joints ad That is called in film advertising, where you are focusing on it. So what happens is the filmmaker charges this person, the brand, a certain amount of money in return for show putting that brand in the film. So that's one thing. Besides that, we are going to look at the advertising techniques, as in what is the above the line advertising, what's below the line advertising, and what is through the line advertising. So when we talk about above the line advertising, that's the very impersonal kind of advertising which happens through the mainstream media, like TV and radio and newspapers and all. And this is obviously very, very expensive as compared to others. So brands are built, when you talk about brand building, when you're talking about something which is more of an umbrella concern, and it is not necessarily limited to small verticals of a company, you make use of ATL, which is above the line advertising, ALT, sorry. The second is below the line advertising, which is more of unconventional methods of brand building. And they look at the various techniques and the direct means of communicating with the audiences. So it could be personal selling, or it could be, direct mails, promotions, door to door. Those kind of things are below the line advertising, where you're trying to personally contact the customer and maybe put forth your point of view or your communication. The third is through the line, which is more of a blended mode, where you're making use of greater use of IMC, which we will look at in the last unit. So when you're integrating all of them, so what sort of when you're going to have a campaign in a locality, maybe below the line advertising is the best deal for it. When you go around informing people, so you're okay. Let us take an example. Suppose you're going to hold a health mela, a health fest, okay, for the senior citizens of the city, of the town, or the small locality that there is. So here it is important that one way is that you put small posters at all the important places where that people pass by. Alternately, if you think that people should contribute towards it, some small minuscule amount of money should be contributed, you go door to door, right? So the idea is to talk to people, to encourage them to participate, and then make your event a success. There below the line advertising will be the best one. So these are the various kinds of advertising techniques that we make use of. The third thing is the different kinds of advertisement appeals. So say for example, humor appeal, or fear appeal, or musical appeal. um, Whenever you think that you're going to you're wanting your customers to remember a certain thing, a certain communication for a long period of time, you try and produce a beautiful piece of music. Why? Because music is something which is inadvertently it interacts with your persona, and it develops its effect on a human mind. So whenever you're using musical appeals, they will stay with the person. Whenever that person is going to listen to that kind of music, will be reminded by your brand, reminded of your brand. So that's one. Then fear appeal, a very good example is COVID-19. So whenever you're talking health, whenever you're talking your children's future, those are the things where you can make use of fear appeal. So insurance and cosmetics, right? Anything that you're directly putting on your skin. So say for example, a sunscreen. A sunscreen is something that is directly put on the skin. So if you try and come up with what protects the skin more as compared to others, people and why the use of an expired sunscreen can maybe lead to skin cancer or something like that. So that is fear appeal, right? Thirdly, okay, I have spoken to you about music and fear. The third is the humor appeal. So this is again something which is widely used, and it is used with the objective that you want to attract attention quickly to your product, to your policy, to whatever you're trying to say, your organization, anything. So like say for example, whenever you're making use of humor appeal, you are trying to recall what audiences remember something to be funny. So whenever you're using Charlie Chaplin in an or a Charlie Chaplin look alike in an ad, it would be to create this kind of humor appeal. which is just to get attention. It is not for a long time remembrance, the way music appeal can be. It is not to help a person get into action, which a fear appeal can, right? Okay, you do not have a car insurance. This is the next bad thing which is coming to you. So it is not that. It has to be something which is only to attract attention for that moment. So you attract attention, you say what you want to say, and then the audience attention is taken away. So those are three kinds of appeals. Another could be sex appeal. Whenever you see deodorants and perfumes and all, those are the things that will make use of sex appeal. So what is it that can make a person sexually better or more attractive? Then masculine and feminine appeal. Now this emphasizes the product features that will lead to you being looked at in a certain manner because you started making use of a certain product. So that is masculine or feminine appeal. So what kind of say for example, what kind of a brand of cosmetic should you use to increase that appeal? So those are the ads with sex appeal or masculine feminine appeal. And then we also have scarcity appeal. So if you are maybe government, you would come across government ads that would say that if you waste a lot of water, one day we will be at zero level, right? Which means there would be no water available to drink or to make use of in cities and towns. So that is scarcity appeal. Then another way of putting the scarcity appeal can be when you see marketing efforts that are talking about limited edition things, that this is a limited edition watch, so if you are keen, please make a quick purchase decision, right? So this is also a scarcity appeal. Then we also have adventure appeal, whereby you, like say for example, whenever you're talking of tourism, a lot of tourism related promotional material and advertising will talk about adventure, or the how it is going to affect a customer's life eventfully, positively and eventfully. So like in Indian context, we have seen even the ads of drinks like Mountain Dew, and the tagline reads that it takes away your fear and makes you more adventurous. So then we also have, so various kinds of appeals are included here, and I would like you to go through them. There is also a testimonial appeal. When I made use of this product, it really worked wonders for me. So that's a testimonial. And then slice of life appeal is also there. When a real time problem was faced by a customer, this kind of insurance policy helped. So I met with an accident, I had a lot of hospital bill to pay, and this insurance helped me. So that's a slice of life appeal. Then also we can talk of snob appeal, which creates the feeling of desire and envy, for a product or a service that has luxury and elegance and upstreet value associated with it. So, say for example, a certain car brand or a certain brand of clothing, certain brand of shoes. That is it. So, all right. One more kind of appeal is bandwagon appeal. Bandwagon is when you are looking at peer pressure. So this advertiser or the company is trying to ensure that you make use of a certain product because everybody else is doing so. So that fear of missing out, FOMO thing. They play on the FOMO thing, and they like to advertise, and they like to like the customer to assume that he will be or she will be left out. All my friends will have it, I will not, I'll be left out, so I better have it. That's the bandwagon appeal. So these are the various kinds of appeals that we're looking at. Okay, before we proceed further, I will just run through one more time what are the various kinds of appeals we discussed. We discussed humor appeal, fear appeal, we discussed music appeal, sex appeal, we discussed masculine feminine appeal, scarcity appeal, adventure appeal, bandwagon appeal, testimonial appeal, slice of life appeal, and snob appeals. So among so many of different appeals, I would like you to no, but then should be more of an assignment. Check it. I'll give this like an assignment. So we proceed further, and the last bit of this is on the advertising communications and the basic concepts of this. Here we are going to talk of the the various models of advertising like IDA model or Dagmar model, etc. So the first model that we will talk about is the information processing model. The information processing model largely talks about effectiveness of an advertising and the persuasive value that an ad has. So IPM discusses the behavior and attitudinal change. One, we are looking at the behavioral change. The second, we are looking at the change in attitude due to use of a certain product or service. So ideally, it is looking at the various stimuli that are available in the environment. Now, these can be market dominant also, or there can be other kinds of stimuli also. So if I see my friend joining a course of a French or a foreign language, maybe I would be interested in joining it too in my next summer vacation. So that is also a stimulus, as compared to me getting a Facebook ad that talks about any foreign language that I would like to learn, right? So the idea of this model is it breaks down this model into various steps. So the first one is exposure. When an audience is exposed to a certain kind of information, that we must remember, it is a paid form of communication, it is a non-personal form of communication, and we have an identified sponsor for it. So this guy who is pushing this ad for me is wanting me to expose my mind, expose my brain to certain kind of information. After exposure comes attention. There is a lot of information in the environment which is available, to which I expose my mind on a daily basis, but I don't give a thought to everything. So if there is something that catches my attention, the thing is comprehension. Once it catches my attention, I start studying it, understanding it. And why am I doing it? Because I want to know if this information is really of use to me, or is in any way relatable to what I am looking for, because I have a certain need that I need to fulfill. It could be that my car insurance is getting over, so I need to renew it. So for that, if my attention is caught by one car insurance policy, I need to read, understand, and look at the benefits that this car policy will give me as compared to another bank's car insurance policy. So comprehension, and then comes acceptance, right? So I went with this, say for example, ICICI car insurance policy last year. Now when it comes to renewing, I'm happy renewing with the same brand. I am happy with the kind of premium that ICICI charges, or the kind of cover that it gives me for unfortunate times. That is acceptance. And the fifth level is retention. What is it that retains in your mind? So if I say, what is the health drink that you can remember? Or what is the name of a perfume that you can remember? Whatever comes as your top of mind recall is your retention. So similarly, out of all that, you remember this theory that we were talking about on selective exposure, selective perception, and selective retention, where I said that there is a plethora of information in the environment. We expose ourselves to only some bit of it, out of which there is still smaller section to which we give a thought, and yet smaller one which gets retained in our brains for longer use, or which maybe, after a month, if I ask you what is it that you remember from this course, you will be able to tell me. So that is retention, right? So these are the 5 steps of this IPM model, information processing model. I will repeat these: exposure, attention, comprehension, acceptance, and retention. So after these comes, and this is all these 5 steps has something or other to do with the memory of a person, right? So the sharper the memory, more the things you remember, the greater the attention you pay. And exposure, of course, is dependent on whether you want to expose yourself to a certain information or not. So these are the 5 steps. And right from stimulus, the kind of stimulus that is available in the environment, and between the stimulus and it becoming permanent in your memory, these 5 steps play a role. They keep playing different kinds of roles in order to assure that it gets retained in the memory over a longer period of time, or whether it stands forgotten. So that is IPM model. The second model we'll be looking at is IDA model. IDA stands for AIDA. A stands for attention. Then we have interest, I. D stands for desire and A stands for action. So AIDA, attention, interest, desire, and action. Attention, you very well know, and how or why brands require attention to the communication that they are giving out in the market. Yeah. So, having said that, let us move on to the interest bit of it. Once the attention is captured, whether interest is generated in that communication or not is something which is important to understand. If I am not looking actively for a car insurance policy, I will not be interested in however number of calls come to me or however number of mails I see, or whoever is offering a car insurance. So the idea is that once the attention is captured, whether you are able to, you as in the advertiser, whether the advertiser is able to generate some interest in minds of the customers or not, and a more detailed picture of the message is painted, or as vivid the picture, the more convinced with the concept I will be. So that is interest. And then when we talk about desire, uh, the desire element could help the customers embrace the idea, by explaining how it will benefit them. So okay, so it's my mom's birthday that is coming up. So what would the desire could be? To gift her maybe a piece of jewelry or something that she can make use of, anything. So desire is that. But when out of all that information which is available to me in the market at all times, in fact, human mind is flooded with information and there is always some information overload. But yet, since there is always this thing in the mind that 1 month later is my mom's birthday and I am on a lookout, generally, not very actively, but generally, for what I would like to gift her, there is a certain kind of desire that a good piece of communication will create for me. So maybe I was looking at a perfume versus a piece of jewelry, and maybe the ad for the perfume I found more relatable and I was more convinced with it, so I did not go for the jewelry, or I went for the jewelry and I omitted the perfume. It could be anyways. So this is the desire part of it, and as effective as your communication becomes, the greater the desire amongst people to get it. And so one has to one has to formulate the communication very, very strategically. And then the fourth bit is action. When I say action, the advertisers suggest that they would like to see a certain behavioral change. So you would come across a car dealer who would tell your father that, okay, you drove this car and this is the newer version of the car that your son should take, because 30 years down the line we have made ourselves this better, and this, like you had your memories with your car, your son is going to have memories with this car, because of various reasons. This is the first car that he would drive, he would take his friends out to in, and whatever, XYZ could be the reason. So action. An advertiser is suggesting an action and he is wanting the desired behavioral change from the customers. Okay, so say for example, in India, people have a lot of penchant, or I would say they used to have a lot of penchant about fair skin. So there were creams that would, of course, the Supreme Court of India put a ban on them later, but they advertised themselves as a cream that could make dark-skinned people fair, because of the kind of perception of beauty people had in India. And though it has relatively changed over a period of past 10-20 years, but this was how it was. So the action point was fair and lovely can make you fair. Look at the name itself. The name of the cream was Fair and Lovely. So, and the people assumed that, and the advertisers assumed that people would have this idea that this use of this cream can make you fairer in complexion. So this was the action that they were looking at. So having spoken of this, the third and another important model of advertising is the Dagmar model. Dagmar model talks about awareness. It talks about defining what is DAGMAR. It is defining advertising goals for measuring advertising results. Okay, so defining the goals and measuring the results is what this model was essentially talking about. So the first and the foremost thing it talked about was awareness. Abu Bakr is joining now. Okay. So, the first and foremost thing in this model is awareness. Now, when we talk about awareness, the idea is to make people aware of the existence of this product or service that is being talked about, that is being, that companies are spending a humongous amount of money on. So once the awareness is attained, then the companies must utilize it very immediately and efficiently. So let's say, for example, brand endorsements. So we have a lot of film celebrities who endorse various brands. So as soon as that awareness about that brand is out, you should look at, as an advertiser or as a marketer, what is the next thing that we're looking at. Are we looking at a change in habits of the people? Are we looking at brand loyalty, or are we looking at only a desired behavior change? What is it that what is our goal? So immediately pursue that after awareness has been created. Otherwise, your effort goes waste. One. Second thing is the comprehension. When we talk comprehension, the advertisers need to focus more on the product benefits. So if I, like I was giving example of the a car insurance policy, the product benefits, there has to be a deeper understanding in the mind of the consumer about the benefit, the product benefit or the service benefit that this that the use of this would get me. So say for example, you would find advertisements of toothpaste that would tell you that, okay, they make your teeth stronger, then they make your gums stronger, and healthier teeth and no bad breath. So those are certain USPs with which anybody would like to make a purchase decision. So as strong as the product benefits for the consumers, the more the chances that they will not only not only make the purchase decision, but will also stay loyal to your brand. Then the third thing is conviction. The conviction is the idea of the confidence that a customer will have in your brand, in your product or service. So, say for example, there is this sugar free, right? A lot of people who suffer from diabetes in India, and India is known to be the diabetes capital in the world. A lot of people make use of sugar free. The name is such, sugar free. So it provides you with sweetness. It is a sweetener, but it does not have sugar in it. So it will not lead to immediate release of glucose in the body, and it will not lead to rise in sugar levels of the blood. Right. So that is the idea. So that is the conviction. Though, of course, less number of people know that it has aspartame in it, which, and better than it is having white sugar, processed sugar. But one should not have sugar free. But there are very few people who will know this, because one, the name itself is such, and they've projected themselves as an alternative to processed white sugar. Right. So that is conviction, the conviction that you build. I would say, in the Indian context at least, this is a disadvantage, that people don't mind lying through their ads. So again, the responsibility of confirming whether what is being spoken through an advertisement is true or not. Like I just gave you an example of sugar free. Sugar free has aspartame in it, which is actually very harmful. Yeah. But it is being projected as something which doesn't have sugar in it, so people can happily use the sweetener and help their diabetes without raising the levels, the diabetic levels. So that is something which is, again, it's like misinformation or disinformation. Like there is a lot of fake information and fake news, and it is left to the people to decide and look for themselves whether the information being given is correct or not. Similarly, here in case of advertisement also, not everything that you come across is true. So it is always left to the customer to figure out if that is true or not. That's one. And then the fourth level of this Dagmar model is action, where, of course, after watching certain ads or being convinced with what the ad is emphasizing or the kind of benefit it is drawing for you, the final idea is that the consumer should go ahead and purchase the product or service. So those are the four models. And then advertising, it is so huge. Advertising as a discipline itself is so much to, because it is creative, at the same time it is a lot of management, and it is a lot of strategizing. So the unit in itself also becomes so large. So the next thing that we will talk about is the push and pull strategy. You know, whenever we are talking about the, say for example, a product being displayed in the windows, that kind of, what kind of promotional strategy use for it? It is the push strategy, where you're pushing a product to the consumer. Okay, look at this product, it's looking so good on the mannequin, it'll look equally good on you, so why don't you go ahead and make a purchase decision? So you're looking at the producer, you're looking at the wholesaler, the retailer, and the customer. So this is how the POP displays work. And the customers may not experience the push strategy as it is directed towards them, more indirectly. But pull strategy aims at the end consumer only, right? So push strategy is to ensure that up to retailer. Retailer is the person who will tell you, oh, don't go for this brand A, go for brand B because it is cheaper, it is new in the market, and it is being really liked by people whoever have taken this. So you would take that recommendation. Right. So this is more of push strategy. As compared to this, whenever an advertisement is directly talking towards the end consumer, that is more of a pull strategy. So the functionally speaking, it goes from the producer to the wholesaler to the retailer to finally the customer. What kind of ad you're producing for the customer? So that push and pull strategy keeps happening alternatively. And having spoken of them, that there are also certain other things that are explained in this unit, like what is branding. So we've given it in really short terms, because in courses to come in the second year you will learn more about it in greater detail. Here we did not have much of scope to explain too much on branding right away. So all we are saying is that branding is ideally to set an image in the minds of the people. It looks at the logo, the color, the labeling, the name of the company, and the tagline, the shapes, the all those things which help you recognize, the symbols of a company from the others. So that is what we know as branding. And what are the various other tools, in order to extend in the market or any other market? When we make use of slogans, when we make use of jingles, there are trademarks, logos, mascots. All those are a part of the corporate identity of any brand. And whenever we are making use of these, we are actually talking branding. Advertising is very much a part of it. And then another topic that you would find covered in this unit is the USP, the unique selling proposition. What sets a Rolex watch different from, what makes it different from any other, say, Fossil or any other watch, brand watch, right? So that is the unique selling proposition, which is very important when we're talking advertising or when we're talking branding, right? So that is that. And the last segment of the unit will talk about the advertising management process. So because advertising is partially a part of management, you are keeping certain amount of money only to spend on the advertising all through the year. And you already have planned that what kind of advertisements or what kind of strategies are you going to stay invested in, so that you are able to get a certain kind of output. So advertising strategy is one thing. And then to in order to fulfill that strategy, what is primarily important is that you should be looking at some goals, some setting of some objectives. So like we do it in research, there is a broad objective and there are some specific objectives. The objectives could be that you want to say increase the business volume, you want to increase the sales, you want to ensure that people are more loyal or come back, they make um, they come back with their purchase decisions. Yeah, they again purchase the same brands. So whatever your objectives are, and then according to that you formulate certain budgets for the event or for the campaign that you're going to run, the ad campaign. So this is based on the previous year's experience, what kind of experience you had initially, and what sort of purchase, the sales techniques you made use of, what kinds of branding strategies you made use of, what won you and what you lost. So those are the things. And then, of course, it talks about creating a marketing messages. When you're going for advertisements, what you are communicating is the most important, because you're not there to drumbeat or to trumpet what you want to say. Whatever is being said is being said through the communication that you have designed. So the selection of media, what kind of media, when to use, what kind of vehicles to make use of, media vehicles, all those things are really important. Was it? No. No, I'll talk later. I'm in the class later. No, leave it. It's fine. Sorry. So selecting media vehicles and selecting, doing a kind of media scheduling. So, say for example, if you decided to run an ad for 15 days, sorry, some 6 months, let us assume. So for the initial 1 month, you warm up the people with, and maybe a radio ad or a television ad, and then when you're going full throttle, you come up with TV ads or social media ads, and then you ensure that your presence, you are heard and seen everywhere. So what kind of ad spend do you design for it? What kind of selection of media do you make? And how do you optimize your resources? Because advertising and the ad spends that various companies have, it is an expensive affair. Advertising does not happen free of cost, and it requires a lot of money, whichever media vehicle you're talking. So reaching with high frequency, at the same time optimizing the resources that you've used, and knowing your customer well, so that you know exactly who to speak to, right? So when I say who to speak to, say for example, in India, in the rural belt, usually people live in joint families. Um, and if you have to talk about um, a would be mother and the kind of nutrition she should have, ideally, the right person to talk to is the mother in law, because she continues to hold control of the household in the rural areas. So, if you educate the mother in law about how the health of the baby would be affected if the mother to be does not eat well, or it does not look after her health, does not get her tests done from time to time, does not follow the doctor's advice, it would be more beneficial and would yield greater results as compared to others. So, knowing the customer is also very important, and doing your own homework is also very important. When I talk about doing the homework, say for example, like I have told you in my previous classes, that India is a very versatile kind of a country, and the culture of different states, we have so many states, and the culture of different states are different. So also the social values are different. So like a lot of people outside the country know about the state called Rajasthan, which is very well, which is actually famous for its hospitality, and the kings and queens and forts and the grandeur basically, and the culture, because it's culturally very rich, be it the folk music, be it the food and everything. But even there, in the not very modern developed cities of that state, if you move to the urban belt or the rural belt, you would see that people do not like strangers to speak to the women of the household, right? So it is important to do that kind of homework. If you're going for an advertisement strategy in a place like this, you should know who to speak to and where. That is very important if you want your communication to be accepted properly by the audience. And of course, the kind of competition that you face, yours is not the only brand. So whether in terms of pricing, whether it is competitive pricing, or it is the kind of media houses, or it is the kind of traditional media that people are making use of, your competition is making use of, is something that you need to know, you need to study, and then accordingly frame your strategies of advertisement. So that is it. With that, we come to the end of this long unit on advertising, and I hope you have all followed it. Let us take a 5 minute break, and then we will continue with public relations. Right? I'll see you in 5 minutes. So, everyone, I am back, and let us continue with what we were discussing in advertising. Uh, I was talking of a media mix in advertising, whereby you decide, depending upon your communication and depending upon your the campaign, advertising campaign, as to what sort of a media vehicle you would want to use, or which media you would want to use when. Okay, so that is called scheduling, and that's called a media mix, when you're making use of multiple media to meet your advertising objective. um, I will give you uh, a certain kind of context in which you will have to decide which kind of media mix are you going to use and what kind of media scheduling you would do, right? So say for example you have um, okay, you have an option. You can either look at um, making people aware about digital education in rural belts of your country. Alternatively, you can look at, you are a brand manufacturer of, say for example, a car, and this is a new vertical that you're going to launch. So for this, on a smaller scale, maybe for a city or for two cities, similarly in the previous question it could be for one village or two rural villages, what kind of media mix you would use, and what give me a small brief of what you will do and what kind of media mix you would use, why that is the more pertinent one. And you've close to 5 minutes to think on that. Please keep the responses crisp and precise, not in a paragraph form. All right, I'll repeat the question. So there are two situations that I gave. Situation one, create an awareness on uh, digital education. Okay. And the situation two is you're going to launch a small new car in the small car segment. What you are required to do is figure out which media, what kind of, figure out your media mix. And media scheduling, as in which all media you will make use of and how you will schedule the communication on it. You can take up any one of the two situations. I hope I'm clear. Please read the message box and you will know. I am not looking at the communication that I'm not looking at creation of an ad. I am only looking at if you want to communicate a brief idea of what you would like to communicate and what kind of media mix you're making use of and why you're doing that. And you can either take up situation one where you're creating an awareness communication on digital education, or you can take up the situation two where you were a car manufacturer and you're going to launch a small car in the small car segment. So for both, I want you to figure out the media mix and also media scheduling. I hope I'm clear now. You may respond to any one of the situations. Yes, Christiana.
Okay, madam. Please, I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes, you're
Hello?
audible. Yeah, you're
Okay,
clearly
thank
audible.
okay, thank you. I would like to respond to situation one or
Yes.
case study. Case study one. Okay,
Okay.
this one we are looking at a rural community, and so for us to have an effective education on digital education, I think that we should use the rural media, be it radio or TV in the rural areas, instead of using the mainstream media or internet. We can also use the social media, but then I think the focus should be on the rural media. And then when it comes to language, we know most of those people, their words could understand of our official language, but then it's the parents that we need to educate the most, as in they would actually push their children to be involved in this digital education. And so I'm sure most of the parents can relate to our local languages. So every community you go to, I think that we figure out the dominant language that people understand there, and then you use that language, and then use it to educate the people on the media in that environment. I think that would make that kind of communication very effective. Aside, unlike using the mainstream media or going to uh, uh, urban areas and using their mainstream media. So I think the focus should be on the rural media and then using the local dialect and maybe citing situations or examples that the people can relate to. And sometimes too, we can organize a community education instead of going to radio or those mainstream media. I think community education can also help. You organize stakeholders and then you meet them face to face, explain the proceeding, advantages, and the benefits to the community and then the students at large. I think that will help. Thank you.
Okay, Christiana, good thinking. But can you elaborate upon what rural media to use? That is what I was looking at. What kind of media mix? Rural media, correct. Local dialect, right. But what media mix?
What media makes that's as a radio, be it radio or TV station, based on the rural environment. That's
Mm-hmm.
if I'm right.
No, because you were talking about rural media to be used. So I wanted to know what sort of rural media are you talking about? Can you
Radio.
give
Now,
me an example?
some rural environments who have TV stations, like where I am coming from, they have a TV station, a community TV television. So that
Okay.
community television can be used, and
Hmm.
radio stations too can be used. Thank you.
Right. And have you also worked out the media scheduling? So, like when you are making people aware of digital communication, what media would you make use of first? And then in the later stages, so say for example, it is a 6 month campaign that you're running. Which media are you going to make use of first? And then next, later, and then later. Have you thought on that as well?
And madam, pertaining to which media you would use first, it depends. If it is a team, I think that you can make use of both the radio and the TV at a go, whereby some people will be dispatched to the TV, some people will be dispatched to the radio. Pertaining how, based on your research as to when people watch TV in your community the most, when people listen to radio in your community the most. In my community, it is in the evening that you see a lot of people glued to their TV station and their radio station. And so, if people are willing, you can dispatch them in the evenings to make such an announcement.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Christiana.
Thank you,
Uh,
Joanna.
So we also have a
Hello.
response from Oluwaleke, and he says, answer to situation
Hello.
one, I think it is better to use a combination of traditional and digital media channels because while digital channels can reach a wider audience, certain rural areas may have limited access to the internet or digital platforms. Media mix to be used are TV, radio, print media, and community outreach. Yes, agreeable. Agreeable. Thank you. Yes, Abu Bakr, you have a response?
Yes, and well, mine is I'm using situation one as well, and we almost have the same thing because my media makes to be used radio because it's a rural area, of course, and it has wider reach. And I will use community events like organized community events towards through which I can now uh, send my message, the message that I intended, and as well I will use posters and flyers since it's a rural community, and it will be pasted around places. And how am I going to use radio? Uh, the advertising, the my messages will be designed in a way that they will be posted or they will be aired in at that time that we usually call peak hours, like when people listen to radio the most, maybe in between a very popular program in that area, where, and then depending on my target audience, most especially if I'm talking about digital education, it's generally in the community area, but then I'll be looking at more especially the younger demography. So I will look for perhaps a sport program before or after, or maybe in between to now send my message. And by community events, as an individual or as a company that's trying to, enlighten that rural community on digital education, I can sponsor events or I can, partner in one event or the other where I know that I can reach stakeholders that I can influence whatever I am, trying to do. Let's say uh, a town hall meeting where aged people, who has children and who has the influence in that community so that they can attend and I can speak to them about the importance of it, or you understand, and tell them the benefits of digital literacy and all. And then I can also use posters and flyers. It can be posted, pasted in places like marketplaces during market days, or in key areas, maybe around schools, or people will see those posters, and the messages will be how how important those digital medias are, and the need to actually imbibe digital literacy. I think that's my contribution. Hello.
Well thought of, and a good media mix you've devised. That is a nice one.
Thank
Is
you.
there anybody else who would like to share? Osvaldo or Kavish? Okay, Napong, please do.
Okay, so
You're muted, Napong.
yeah,
Yes.
hello. I'm
Yeah, now
okay
you're
now.
good. Yes,
Oh,
yes.
beautiful. Thank you. Sorry for the. Right. So I was saying that I'm going to launch a new car, which is within the small car segment. And so, what are some of the media considerations that I'm going to take into in the scheduling? And so, first of all, I would like to do an ad as on Prime TV times, radio times, and of course, some online publications. Also, I will consider newspaper, front pages of newspaper and the back pages. Then normally the issues that generate so much will be in Ghana, for example, on Monday editions, and then Wednesday editions are so powerful. Yeah, so I will look at all of this and then put my ads on all of this. And then I will also look at the magazines, popular magazines such as those that go by or fly with some airplanes, those that they live at the airports, hotels, and all the popular places that you can find these magazines roaming. So I will look at all of this. Then I also consider billboards, and the billboards are going to be placed around prime areas, commercial areas, popular roads, very busy roads where people, motorists always go through, and then popular marketplaces where people always visit to do their shopping. Beside shopping malls, closer to shopping malls, and then even some adverts within shopping malls. You can get murals, wall paintings, or any of that sort within community areas. So these are some of the details that I will consider when I'm going to do this advert or launch a new car. So, and then I will also consider appearing on uh, television, especially other the 2 days, uh, a pre-event, and then the event day, the launch day, then the pre-launch and the launch day. So pre-launch, a day before the launch, I can go to any popular TV station and discuss in detail the features of the small car, how different it is from others that are already in the system, how efficient the fuel consumption, or if it is about electric or solar that we're using, I would like to differentiate it from other vehicles that are already in the system. So there I have the opportunity to discuss the features of the vehicle in details. So these are the things that I will consider when I'm launching a new vehicle. Thank you.
You have practically covered your town with communication on the launch of the new car. So this is going to be a costly affair, but an effective one, no doubt about it. So thank you for this. Is there anyone else who would like to share a response? All right. So this was an interesting thing, and I hope when you attempt your assignments and all also, you'll find it equally as interesting. So the next unit we're going to talk about now is public relations and corporate communication. One difference between advertising and public relations is advertising is more of a rooftop shouting, where you keep telling people that we are the best, we are the best, we are the best. And public relations or corporate communication is when somebody else vouches for you, testifies for you, and says, no, this brand is really good one. We've made use of it, and we have, it satisfies why they're using it. It satisfies the reasons. So there is a huge difference. And that is precisely the reason why public relations also focuses on relationship building, goodwill building. So that's the most pertinent part of it. Other than that, whatever, yes. And then they are also slightly more thoughtful about the media vehicles they make use of and how they make use of it. So they try and make use of more alternative communication media vehicles so that they are able to, pursue the same objectives, but by spending lesser than what the ad spend of a company would be. So this is more innovative. This is more into relationship building. Public relations is something that tries to conform to relationships and tries to make loyal relationships with customers. So goodwill is important for that. Winning trust of people is important for that. And of course, communicating in a manner that they stay with you for a long, long time is important. So the more personal such kind of communication is, the better it gets. So this is about public relations. Of course, the tools that they make use of, or the media mix that they make use of, can be similar. They can get innovative when they have to save on the money. So that is what public relations is all about. So ideally, when you run through the unit, you will see that public relations has been defined in a certain manner. So it talks about how the flow of information or knowledge travels from individuals to society, and how to make it more as a practice of public relations, how to make it more adherent in terms of being trustworthy, in terms of being a friend of the people that you're serving for life. So it is looking at a company or individual or organization who is inducing the public, the investors. So those are the various kinds of publics. There is one external public and there is one internal public. Internal public obviously are the employees who are working in an organization. So say, for example, in IGNOU, we have so many regional centers, we have study centers, we have overseas centers, and then we are the ones, the professors, the teachers who are based at the headquarters. So all of us together are the internal publics of IGNOU. When we talk about external publics of any organization, we talk in terms of the customers, the media, the government, the lobby group, the stakeholders, the financiers, the competition. Everyone else in the society forms your external publics. So it is important to understand the concept of publics in public relation first. And with that, then when you run through this unit, you will find how people have defined public relations over a period of time, over, and the kind of functions, because public relation is supposed to be more of a management function. Okay. Why? Because it works very closely with the management of an organization to see that the policies that are made are seen in the correct light. The public does not misinterpret it or does not see it as something which is against the society or is not helpful to the society. At the same time, why? Because the larger role of public relations is to gain ground with the public, is to gain trust of the public. So as a management function, it looks at anticipating and reviewing the policies, calculating, evaluating the campaigns that are being run, the communication that is being made, the kind of public opinion. They are largely concerned with image making and public opinion of an organization. So the better the public opinion, the more the trust factor that this company is able to build with the public at large, right? So that is one management function of public relation. The second is discussing and counseling. Like, say for example, you have labor unions who would revolt against certain things, say for example automation or the coming of AI. That's a solid example. So we know that the world is about to change forever because of artificial intelligence and the way artificial intelligence is going to work and get involved in everyone's personal, professional lives, not only at an individual level, but at community and social level as well. So a lot of jobs are going to change over the next 10 years or more. You would find that the nature of jobs and the kind of expertise that is required has changed and has undergone a sea change. So maybe in times to come, like in India, we are still into the old fashioned way of education. So the children will study up till class 12th, and then they'll go to college, then they'll go to university. If they want to pursue an academic career, they would further go on to doctoral degrees, else they will pursue whatever profession they want to pursue. But in times to come, probably degrees, those 3 years, 4 years, 5 years long degree, will not remain essential at all. What they will be looking at would be quite in line with, say, for example, coding. So if you're a coder, if you know how to code, all you need to do is, get employed with a software system, with a software company. And then all you're doing is coding, making programs. These programs could be to collect data of people at large. It could be towards making apps. It could be towards making chatbots or artificial intelligence stuff. So all those things are going to happen in times to come. So it is important that the policy decisions are seen in the correct light globally. I'm not just talking of one country, I'm talking of any country. So this is also a management function of public relations. Hence they are into decision making, they are into discussions why a certain policy should be made in a certain way, so that it can be, if your company is going to take on AI in a big way, people will be scared for their jobs. So the function of public relations would be to keep them informed, to make them aware and educate them about how AI is going to bring about a change in their lives, but at the same time, it will not really take their jobs away. And in order to sustain yourself in your job, what upgradation do you require? In terms of technical know-how, in terms of whatever expertise is required for AI. Okay, so those are also the management functions of public relations. Other than that, research is one very important area. When I say research, like advertising researches into the consumer base, what kind of consumers, what is the behavior patterns of the consumers, or demographics and psychographics and stuff like that. But here in public relations, we are looking at evaluating a report. We are looking at whatever communication efforts we have made in the past, be it through advertising or whichever way, public relations, anything, and what kind of an output it has generated. Plus, it will also look at the current, what should I say, current campaigns, current communication efforts, and if some midterm correction is required, if we require something to be optimized in a better manner, those kind of researches, evaluative researches, are an important part of public relations. Then planning and implementing of objectives is important, since I say that they work in close connection with the top management. It is important to understand what the objectives of the company are, and then to make it more present it more tastefully, and convincingly in front of different publics, external publics as well as internal publics. So planning and implementation of objectives is also a part of this. While they are doing this, they are not only looking at setting of objectives and minimizing the use of resources or optimizing the use of resources, they are also looking at public policy and how it can be changed for the better. So um, and yes, media works in close contact with public relations, because in order to do anything and in order to, public relations is what? Do good and get credit for it. That is what public relations is. So if you're doing good, it is only media that can help you project that you have done this good, and people will appreciate you for that, which you rightly need. So that is why the balance or the equation between journalism and public relations is important. A public relations personnel has to be um, a journalist as well, because one should be able to project your reports, which you obviously the journalists don't really like to write reports until they are motivated by something else, right? So it is the public relations personnel who would give them a report that would be published in the media in the on the next day. And how you want it to be written, what is the embargo for it? Embargo is the date before which a certain report should not be published. So everything else is shaped up by the PR person only. Hence a PR person needs to be a journalist also. Okay, when you run through this unit, you will also come across a number of other responsibilities that public relations personnel must handle. The duties and responsibilities are given here, like say for example, monitoring issues related to the company and seeing that there is no consternation, there is no what do we call them, no ganging up of people, of employees against the company. And then advising the management on policy decisions and policy issues, preparation of budget and planning PR programs, that's also the function of public relations people. And then presenting arguments. So say for example, press briefing or a press conference has been called. So it is the public relations manager or personnel who is going to prepare the CEO for what needs to be spoken and how and in what light the facts should be presented. And also whether a number of times people also make them rehearse so that they present well in front of the media. What kind of questions will be taken up? Some questions are also planted in the media. And that is why the public relations people also need to cultivate the media well. So all of them together, yes. So these are the responsibilities, and when you go through the unit, you will see there are a few others which will be easy to follow. And then of course we have the various tools that public relations make use of. These could be the news release. I just explained the press release part of it. In a press conference, the most important thing that you are giving away to the media is the press release, which contain okay, a press conference should be called only when you have something of important nature to present to the media, or something which is of large public interest. It could be a company, as a part of its corporate social responsibility, decided to open a hospital or a school somewhere, or it could be the opening of a new branch, like Apple recently launched its store in Mumbai and Delhi. So that calls for a press conference. So how you're projecting your company and how you are taking the public interest or the societal interest into picture is how it should be projected in a press conference. Then like I was talking about a press release, which is also called a news release, you usually prepare a kit which you offer to the media, which has all the background information along with a crisply written press release or news release. Other than that, like I said, media kit is there. You also have blogs in which you encourage the employees of the company to write, or you maintain a regular blog or a an e-newsletter kind of a thing yourself. And then there is, okay, why is it helpful? So say for example, it is a company that makes semiconductors. Unless you're able to blog about how a semiconductor is being made better, or what more have we started using semiconductors for, or what sort of technology is changing for them, why is it that semiconductor companies suddenly have become very important in the global context, economic context, those are the things that you blog on. So basically it is semi-technical to technical information that is partaken on an informal basis. So you and I or anybody from the company, someone can run a blog, can talk about an area which you share an expertise on, or you are privy to certain kind of information which you would like the public to know. Through this, you're also focusing on garnering public support for your company. So that's about blogging. And then, of course, media relations. You need to cultivate the media if you have to have a positive, a vibe in society in general about your company. Publicity, I have already explained when I was talking about propaganda and publicity and advertising. Then, of course, one tool that public relations people make use of are media tours. So if you like, I just gave you an example of Apple opening a new a new branch, a new company in or an outlet rather. Earlier, there was no Apple outlet manufacturing unit in India. Now we have two. So a media tour could be to you take the press people, you take the journalist, and you make them visit the new place and tell them how the processing happens, how the everything goes on there, and what is expected, what kind of a turnout is expected, and that how many people in India are getting employment because of that, etc. So all of it is a part of the media tour. The idea is to project, to show them, like if you're opening say for example a new eating joint or a new hotel or a new casino, you would like the press to come and experience it for themselves. So that is the idea of having a media tour. So this Apple, the concern is going to make the press visit and take a look for themselves and take an experience, a first-hand experience of the place. That's for media tour. And then, of course, there are special events too. Like when I was giving you an example of organizing a health fair or a health fest, okay, or organizing career fest for college students. So those are the special events that someone can. We all know that there's okay, in India we have a policy that 2% of your profits on an annual basis will go into corporate social responsibility, and the government has already chalked out a few areas like women empowerment, education, health. I think there's a list of 10 to 15 such subjects. Any of them can be picked up by a profit-making company, and you can invest that 2% of your profit which you've gained on an annual basis into any of these concerns, right? So now this is something which calls for a special event. If you've opened you have maybe opened a new factory in some place, and then you decide that to help the people benefit there, because people are paying the social cost of a factory being opened, at least in terms of air pollution or water pollution or whatever. So you decide to to give them pakka houses, or you decide to come up with hospital or schools and so on and so forth. So this is something which calls for a special event in which you invite the media, the local politicians, and the public at large, and inform them, educate them, make a good bill with them. Then there are exhibitions. I don't think I need to explain much on why exhibitions or what kind of occasions call for an exhibition. And then, of course, new media. New media is no more new. We all know that all companies these days maintain their Facebook page, their LinkedIn pages, and Insta pages and everything. So it is important to maintain a social presence across globally. So those are the tools of public relations. And I think, what else do I need to cover in this? Yeah, all right. Government public relations. A number of times people would wonder, why should a hospital need public relations? Because a hospital is a place that people will anyway have to go to if they fall ill. Or why does government need public relations? These are the people who are manning our taxes, who are collecting taxes from us, who are deciding, making policies for us. Why do they need public relations? And then there can be various other sectors. And NGO, say for example, why does an NGO is only working for the society, why do they need public relations? So those are questions to ponder over. So like for government, I can give you a few reasons. Like whenever you're talking of effective implementation of the policies that you're making for the public, you require the people to rally behind you. Like say for example, in India, a year back, they were coming up with some laws for the farmers, which said that everybody is going to sell to one or a small conglomerate of businessmen only. So they would decide the rates for the farmers at the rate at which their produce will be purchased. And the farmers will not have a say in terms that they will not be able to sell it out in open market. They will have to sell to this conglomerate of businesses only. So all across the country, we saw huge protests, and finally, even in a country like India, where government really doesn't really, take its policies back, the government was forced to roll back the policy that it came up with for the farmers. So the idea is that government public relations can help channelize people in support of a certain policy. Now, probably the government was not able to convince the public of the benefits that it would reap, the economy would reap. And so it had to roll back. That is one reason why government requires public relations too. Also, it helps in assisting all types of media in coverage of government relations. So if our prime minister goes out and meets the global leaders, comes up with certain agreements or comes up with certain MOUs under which we will have maybe cultural exchanges, which can come under soft diplomacy, or they come across some trade relations, then that is something that the people must know, because it will help the government stand a better chance in the next elections. So similarly, there can be reporting and providing information to the citizenry of its activities, increasing the internal cohesion of the agency. Yes, it is important to understand how life for the people is being made easier. So if you're going to have a bullet train in a short while, then it will only make it easier for people to travel across huge distances, which would usually take more time and more money. So that's again something which will help building goodwill with the government. And then increasing the sensitivity of its publics or society. So sensitivity to what? So say, for example, cyber crimes. Say, for example, we all have mobile banking and we all have internet banking and so on and so forth. And there is a number of times that people get cheated. So making people aware this too is a task of the government. So public relations can help government with that as well. So similarly, you require public relations for hospitals, for NGOs, and all those places which you think don't really need public relations actually need it, right? Okay. Then when we talk about this unit, also talks about corporate communications. I think corporate communication talks about corporate branding, corporate identity, corporate responsibility. Now, this and the last unit, I think I will take up on Thursday, which is the 5th of October. Please note that the time stays 3 to 5, right? So 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. IST, we meet again. And then on, we will take the second part of public relations unit, which talks about corporate communications. And we will also be discussing event management and integrated marketing communications. I did not want too much of information overload, so I think I should be stopping now. Also, we've been studying for 2 hours. So is whatever that was explained today, is it clear? Has it been more of an information overload? Is there some topic that you haven't followed? Something that you would want to ask? Any questions you have? Please feel free to shoot. No questions? Followed everything or haven't followed anything? No questions. All right. I would still advise you that when we meet on Thursday, the 5th, kindly run through this material once. So I'm sure it will be easy for you to follow. But in case there is something that you would want me to repeat, or if you have a question, then we will take it up on 5th. Right? And 5th would be our last class on this course. After this, we will go on to the next course, which is on reporting techniques, where we will talk about hardcore journalism only, political reporting, crime reporting, this, that, everything. So in the next class, I would also like to take up your questions. If you have any, please come up with them. All right. I hope you stand benefited with this session and you found it fruitful. Thank you all very much for joining. And see you on Thursday, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. IST. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, man. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. See you next week.